Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Ion Energy's channel, powering the electrified futures, Mongolia's first lithium brine explorer and developer. Joining us, Haji, the Chief Executive Officer, who's going to give us some updates after visiting the operations themselves. But first and foremost, welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to get you back on. So you did release a news article today, but first and foremost, Ion Energy provided that operational update on the Naran exploration program that you were visiting there recently. Do you want to give us some insight again on what's going on with the operational day-to-day and what you're seeing?
Of course, we've told our viewers before, back in April, we were out on site, myself, Don Haynes, and Mark King. The intent of that visit was to kick off an exploration program, given the fact that we didn't have access to country for over 2 years during the pandemic. But during the course of that visit, of course, we had some auger programs that occurred on site. We also did some geophysics. And if our listeners have seen our news from sort of the past month and a half, we put out an update showing a very large low resistivity zone, which is indicative of brine beneath surface. So the program that we went to oversee was very much the drilling of that program. It includes lithological diamond holes that are vastly aimed at looking at the stratigraphy or the layers beneath the surface. We completed 2 of those holes with cumulative depth of 702 meters. We began one water well, which is sort of a 10-meter step out from the existing diamond hole, the purpose of which is to have a 6-inch wide hole that has casings all the way down to the bottom. They're slotted to allow the brine to flow in and ultimately fill in with respect to density, where we do see that porosity. And during the course of those 2 holes that we drilled, that are the diamond holes, we found in sort of a cumulative 80-meter thickness of very permeable gravelite porous material that allows essentially the brine to flow in. And if you're following the lithium space, of course, flow rates are very important to ensure that you can, in fact, extract the brine and ultimately extract the lithium. So it was great to see the work in progress on site. We've seen the team sort of move quickly and do things correctly. We're very pleased with what we're seeing in terms of early results in the gravelite zones, and we continue to finish that program. So we should be done the drilling of that program in and around the middle of November. And we're expecting to have our geologist, Don Haynes, over on site before then to really oversee the completion of that program, but importantly, to collect the brine samples from depth, which allow us to move toward that inferred resource calculation. So a lot of exciting news flow coming with respect to the exploration program that we'd be sharing with you as and when it's available.
Yeah, and as you kind of continue to, I guess that next big milestone is kind of building out that resource calculation so we can finally figure out the value of what you guys are operating over there. But kind of coming into the latter half of this year, you did mention, you're finalizing that up and into early next year. You want to just give us a kind of a play-by-play, what you see kind of unfolding and just kind of what investors should be just looking for milestones coming up?
Of course, yeah. So what you'd expect to see is Don visiting site. Don should be there before the end of this month. The purpose of his visit would be to ensure that the holes are bailed out entirely, so they are completely empty. So you have an empty column all the way down to the bottom of the hole. You allow those holes to fill naturally, so you sort of wait for them to through natural flow rates, bring in the brine from various depths and various densities. That then settles. You then put a bailer system down to the bottom of the hole. You collect brine samples from the bottom of the hole, and then every 10 or 20 meters thereafter, all the way up the column, you have those assayed, and you will come up with the grade of that brine. Having seen the grade of the brine, calculating an average grade across the column, and having a sense of the flow rates relative to those specific porous regions, multiplied by the low resistivity zone that we've already identified at 22.7 billion cubic meters at a 6.5 ohm cutoff, you're one step closer to that inferred resource. So Kyle, you're absolutely right. Our listeners, our viewers will be seeing a fair number of updates from us, not only with respect to the completion of the exploration, with respect to the holes being drilled, but importantly, the collection of brine samples, their grade, the flow rate measurements, and then ultimately that inferred resource before the end of the year, or as you said, may potentially spill into early next year. But we are well on track, considering this asset was very much a virgin asset when we first visited it in March this year. So we're moving very quickly. We're excited about what we're doing here. And I think the investor base that is currently following our story can expect a number of very exciting updates between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, and I hope the retail audience continues to pay attention to commodity prices as well. As many things correct there. I still find watching that lithium price relatively intriguing as the stocks correct. I think there's setting up for a relatively large value play. But I'll pass the question off to the viewers, and I want to know what you guys think in that comment section below. Consider subscribing, because as this news continues to hit the wire, of course, we're going to update you here. But on that note, stay cool, stay awesome, and of course, we look forward to catching you guys in the next one.